Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. It doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. Good morning, Aya. How are you?
Amazing. How are you doing, Sean?
Amazing. How can I be not amazing when I hear you say how good you are?
Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Got to bring that Aries fire into things, kind of like get the dynamic vibe going up.
Yeah, you said Aries fire? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm in Aries, so we're kind of like the babies of the chart, but also the volcanoes of the chart if we're not very refined. So, yeah, being able to bring that dynamicism and enthusiasm, I feel like is something I've just like had my whole life. Like, I'm excited about stuff.
I love it. I love it. I've never been too into everybody's signs. Like it's funny, but I like hearing about it. I don't know why. Like I love hearing about it, but like I I've never taken I've never thought too much about it, I guess. I don't know why. Maybe I'll look into it.
Oh, because you might be an Earth sign, but air rising. So Earth signs tend to be like, what's that? Okay, I don't know, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Um Well, hey, I appreciate you making the time to connect with me today, and I want to say that I love how we've gotten connected because one of the beautiful things, really, about the technology age, and not to say that COVID or the pandemic was a good thing, but one of the silver linings in the pandemic was I think it opened people's perspective to making um, remote connections. Like I don't really think I would have had someone I'd call a friend like you that I've only like Zoomed with, and we've had several Zooms now, and they really haven't had any agenda. It's just been kind of to chat, and I just love that. So thanks for being so open to connecting, and not just on this podcast, just in general.
Oh, absolutely. Like I'm not gonna let distance get in my way, right? Like there's technology for that. So to me, I'm like, what do I want to do with it? Do I want to limit it? And it's like, oh, we're not really connected because we're not in person. It's like the quantum does not know the difference, right? We're all still connected. So, in that it's like, how much of yourself do you want to open up and give, and how much do you want to be present, because I feel like that makes all the difference.
Yeah, yeah. The I think what you just said there was a gem that might have, I don't want to say went over people's head, but I think people might have let it slide. The quantum um, you, is connected. And yeah, I'd love to hear you open up about that because that is like a foundational element to a lot of my beliefs in life and really what I try to spend time on. So I'd like to hear from you. What,
Which is, of course, a thread between us, right? It's just like, yeah, right, quantum, it's like the quantum family, and the quantum, even if you feel maybe you're more disconnected from your natural born family, you do have a thread to so many people, which is why to me, I'm like, distance doesn't matter, because, that quantum aspect, or I would also say, the thread from the heart is still, it's there if you want to engage in it. But yeah, I think I love quantum physics. It's not like I'm the smartest person in the world, but I am super intrigued by all of the philosophy and the esoteric nature of it. And I love Nissim Haramein, who I just feel like is one of the smartest guys out there. And the way he describes, the quantum and the consciousness, and, it's just like, he's like, it's not about the objects, it's about the space, between the objects that matters. And to me, when I heard that, I was like, Oh, because there's this thread. There are all the things we can't see, but you can feel and sense. And I feel the more you allow your heart to be very present and to allow those like neurons of the heart, the thinking of the heart to be present, it's like that sensitivity to, the quote unquote empty space. It's not empty at all. I mean, to me, that's like the everything. And so
Yeah.
I've tuned into that more.
Yeah. And I put me in that category of not the smartest person in the room when it comes to quantum physics. My introduction was really through two authors. Um, one was Gay Hendricks talking about time, and he talked about Einstein time versus Newton time is the way he described it. Talking about that it's often more about perception and the seer than actual time. And then the other is probably more popular would be Joe Dispenza, right? I know a lot of people talk about him, know about him, and how he almost, I would say, he relates the quantum or he relates quantum physics to manifestation, right? And to how it really is about perception. And I do like that, because he has a lot of followers, gets a lot of ridicule too, but that's what happens when you're on the forefront, on the edge. Like, he's trying to take a super super you know I don't know, a topic that's very like, controversial, I guess would be the best word, and try to apply hard science to it. And that's not, I mean, that is no easy task, even just bringing the awareness to it is amazing. Forget if he's right or wrong. Um, and yeah, I just, I think it gives me belief that like miracles can happen and all that stuff. And that, yeah.
No, absolutely. When you said like he's taking these topics that we could say could be considered like woo, because if you to your point, it's like when you go back to Newtonian concepts of time, the quantum was woo. It's like nope, it's like this, like sun goes up, sun goes down. We're moving in one linear line, and then here comes Einstein and just wrecks everything in the way that is so appropriate. And it's like wait, what? And then you find out that everything is existing at once as infinite possibilities. And you have that moment, personally, I did, where I was like, oh, wait, what? I could I could do anything or manifest anything, And so just being able to have people like Dr. Joe come along and really begin to like quantify it and give it some structure, with the science and with his just epic research that he's done. And I feel like he's like one of those bands that just like has the most popular song in the world and they have to keep singing that same song. I mean, Joe keeps singing the same song. He keeps just putting the information out there. And I'm always grateful when someone comes along who's like, yeah, I just discovered Joe Dispenza. And I'm like, amazing, because it is that ripple effect where, you keep saying something. I think there's the Victor Hugo quote that it's like basically, the most powerful, like, there's nothing stronger in the world than an idea whose time has come. And I feel like Joe is really ushering in, an idea whose time has come. And there's so many other people, but that's why I mentioned like Nassim Harmein, who is sort of like under the radar, but I mean, worth listening to. The guy is super smart, and he breaks down mega heady concepts, and it's like, okay, I just listened to this man talk for 20 minutes. I feel like my brain obviously is expanding at a phenomenal rate, but let me just process this. So, really
Yeah.
appreciative of the people teaching.
Yeah, so one of those books that, are, concepts I think about with books where it's like read 10 pages, then go take an hour walk and then um but I'll tell you a little tangent, but I just went to a Wim Hof retreat and got to study under Wim Hof for 7 days in the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain. It was outstanding. First, I want to tell you, anyone that talks about the unleash of the power that and energy that you get from doing what you're set out on this planet to do, he is an absolute icon in that realm. I mean, just the amount of energy from like his soul, I mean, like pouring energy into us and the other 100 people that were there every second of every day, and no off switch, wasn't he doesn't even he only eats one meal a day. Like it's just coming from the soul, like I know he has a little coffee, 1 cup in the morning, but like, it wasn't like he was just like chugging espressos like you see CEOs doing or whatever. Like it is just from knowing that he wants to change the world. But what we had several one-on-one interactions and chances for Q&A, and I had a question that I was going to ask him when we were hanging out one night. He was playing guitar, but I was like, you know what? Let me ask in front of the group. And because I think other people have the question but don't want to ask. And I said, Wim, I'm all in, right? Like not just on you, but like on the whole idea that we are the alchemist. We have the power to heal ourselves. We just need to find the confidence to be able to do it. And I said, how do you help those that you really care about, that you see are suffering, that you see are in pain, and are not even open to the conversation? And he answered with a 45-minute story in front of everybody in traditional Wim fashion about how he, 11 years ago, think about this, 11 years ago, he had kids who were, his kids are 20s, 30s, right? Upper 20s and 30s. He's a world icon now, right? 11 years ago, he was making $7 an hour just working, an outdoor job. And he was still then saying the same thing he said 28 years ago. He was the guy waiting for his kids at school, doing breathing under a tree, cross-legged, no shoes, no shirt. All the other parents said he was crazy and he shouldn't, be taking care of the kids by himself. And he ended and he looked at me and he said, you need to just keep beating the drum. He's like, you need to be a role model. You need to show people, and you just need to keep pushing what you believe in, basically. Not I almost used the word preaching, not trying to change people, but just keep putting out that this is what you believe in, and of course check yourself and do all that along the way. But that's what I love about people like Dr. Joe. That's what I love about people like Wim. It's like, clearly just so committed to this. And you do have to keep beating the drum.
Well, it's steadfast, right? And that's the nature of discipline itself. It's just like get your reps in, and there's a point I do see, especially in working with my clients and in my own work, where, you know, you're going to find your personal breaking point of resistance. There's a point for everybody. And that's, our personal belief system. And, as Wim, was sharing, it's like, you just keep on. You just keep beating the drum. He's gonna keep sitting there cross-legged under the tree, like no matter what, because he's seen such a clear image in his mind of the outcome. And I'm putting words in his mouth, but it's like, you with someone like that, they see it so clearly. I think about somebody like I love Kobe, and when you see Kobe talking about certain things in clips, from the past, it's like the man's vision of what is happening, like his next 30 steps, his next 30 minutes, like you can see his vision of like how focused he is. And to me that is so exciting. It's such a spark. And when you do have people like Dr. Joe and and the people who are absolutely dedicated, it's like they went all in. And it's not like, well, I'm like 70% in. I feel like personally what I've learned, and in doing uh, hard things and having, you must go all in. I do feel like when you do very, very challenging, let's say, physical things, and it's like well, we're going on this 200-mile ride and there won't be any service in the mountains for 4 hours. It's like, you don't have a choice. Like, you've got to do it. You're all in. You're committed. Well, I'm going to go on this run, and you're going to be in the desert, and then you're going to have to run your way out, because there's no service. Like, you must, right? And so you start to flip the switch on your resistance of like what it means to be committed, and then being committed to something that you absolutely love. I feel like becomes so much more easier.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to get to your work because you mentioned some of the work you do, and I want to share, so I want to learn from you and share it with the world. But obviously, talking about endurance training there, that kind of strikes a nerve with me in a good way. Um, I want to talk about the confidence element because we've kind of touched it in a couple areas. And to me, that's the number one thing of the Wim Hof method. Not just on my mind because I just came from the retreat, right? That this breathing, these ice baths, he didn't invent cold exposure breathing, and he'll say that. But they get you in touch with the deepest part of your soul so that you have confidence that you are the alchemist, that you are able to heal, be strong, be happy, be healthy. Now, that is great in theory, and endurance training is exactly what you said. I like, if I had to break down why I like endurance training and why I signed up for this 100-mile race December 3rd, it's that. It's like December 3rd at midnight, when it's turned to December 4th, I'll probably be on mile 70 or 80. It'll probably be 30 degrees and pitch black in the Appalachian Mountains. And I don't run with a cell phone or a watch, so I'll just kind of keep chugging. Um, and you kind of put yourself in a position where there's no choice. And you can't be crazy and you can't be, you know, what? Well, actually, I want to be clear here. You can be as crazy as the level of your confidence. So I believe in miracles. I like any miracle. I stand behind that sentence. I believe in miracles. What hinders people is their limiting beliefs. And I don't think there's any limit to that. For me, running an ultra marathon of 50 kilometers was crazy, literally crazy 18 months ago. I tried and I failed. I stopped at 18 miles because my foot hurt. Then ran a 50 miler and I told myself I couldn't run 100. Now I'm running 100. I have a really good friend who ran 250 miles last week. He just finished 2 days ago. No sleep for 5 days in the mountains. And people tell him he's crazy. Realistically, he has blisters on his feet and he was a little tired and he lost a couple pounds. That's what happened. Because he was like, his conviction and his confidence in himself was like, this is like not only not crazy, it's like it's just gonna happen. It's easy. And that's what it really comes down to in my mind. And we like to be logistical and analytical, and like I like to be like, okay, cool. Like most people say, you need 6 months to train for 100, so I'm gonna do this training, and then it'll be able to go. And like really, all that's doing is building up my confidence more than it's building up anything in the material world. I would say.
Yeah, most definitely, because you're hitting those smaller goals, right? It's like, oh, I got my own back here. Okay, I did this. Okay, check. Okay, check. Okay, check. It's like, can I do this big thing? Well, refer back to the 12 small, quote unquote, things that I just did. It seems that it would follow that, yes, I will be able to do this because I was able to come through on this and this and this. And so you have that confidence. And in some ways, it's just a knowing, it becomes your essence. It's like, I do hard things, I follow through, and it's nothing you have to figure out, but I would say it is something that it's a practice, because if you decide that you're going to, do these 100 miles and then, okay, I don't know, maybe you won't do it. It's like, oh, I'll do it again in 5 years. Like, I would keep doing hard things in the meantime, because it is a muscle that you're flexing. And even in working with my clients, it's like, get the reps in. You've got to stay on top of it. While you have the memory of having done it, I feel like it's always important to be doing things that challenge you. And when I first heard of those concepts, I thought, okay, so do I ever get to enjoy my life? And then I realized how much I enjoy doing challenging things. So I'm like, oh, yeah, you do get to. But it's it's like, it's having that understanding of the relationship with the discomfort, the pain, you know, instead of resisting the ice, you are, as we mentioned before, in the quantum, you become one with the ice, right? And it's just like, what? You know, it's like, but you, that I do feel is what we're learning. We're learning to ease our minds from this you know, the more of the Newtonian thinking of it's all linear, I just resist and then I get through it. It's like, no, we're in the quantum now. And so the quantum to me is more about the alchemizing of our own linear thinking of how it gets done and pushing through. And it's more of this, oh, I am the ice. I am the pain. I am the thing. So it really frees you in from this restraint of this is discomfort. Oh, this feels like this is this. It's like it can be whatever you want, you know. Then it's like, wait, actually this is really enjoyable, in a completely expanded way.
Yeah. I love what you're saying about like the ice bath because I just okay, so if I was being honest, I don't want to say I went into the Wim Hof retreat arrogant, but I definitely went in. I've done his 10-week fundamental course. I've done 3 years of the Wim Hof. You know, I read his book. You know, I practice it. And like I got in, I got like I get in the cold, and literally it looks like I was like bench pressing. I was like you know, I was like, and our instructor Alex is like, dude, relax your neck. Like it was almost a. He's like you're just like, well, he made a really good point. It's like, um, you're not going to beat the ice. Like what? Like you know, I can like maybe for 10 minutes I will, but for 3 hours, no, like you know what I mean, no chance. It's like you're not going to beat it, so you have to like welcome it in, and then and you know he took us through all aspects of how it's actually about dissolving the ego as well, and getting you know like flexing and fighting, that's actually more like prefrontal cortex versus like let's get deep into the brain, which is really the part of it, deep into the reptilian brain and the parts of our you know body that we haven't even accessed. Uh, and yeah, it is interesting. You called it a practice, so you called it a practice, and you said it's a muscle you have to flex. That's the name of the podcast. That is every bit behind the name of the podcast. Happiness ultimate or happiness life's ultimate discipline, right? I completely view it as a practice. Like that's what like the discipline is, right? It's like teaching yourself to be an observer, you know, and teaching yourself to remain optimistic and dissolve the ego, like all these things that you know you don't have to run 100 miles, or as you've done, I know you haven't shared, bike 200 miles. um like that's those are just one of many ways to like kind of force yourself into that, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, and I would even say, as I'll bring in my feminine lens, it's like I made an agreement. You know, it's like I made an agreement to this. Um, but fortunately, I wasn't doing it alone. You know, so it's like I made an agreement. So to me, it's like showing up and following through. You know, it's like I absolutely I know myself and I don't quit, right? And not like you know, like I'm in pain or I've seriously hurt myself, but if I tell you I'm going to do it, then I'm going to do it. And so with things like that, where you know, it's like I said yes to this because my higher self, my soul, my whatever knows that there's so much here that's gonna, you know, it's again, it's alchemy. You know, it's breaking down any resistance I had to what I think is possible. You know, and as I mentioned, it's like I did that ride. You know, I was 42. You know, and I'd never spent you know time. I was a fixed gear cyclist. I spent time doing like unsanctioned races in traffic, so I definitely worked on fear aspects. But you know, and I had done, I think before that, maybe I'd done 2 centuries, right? So you know, 100 miles. But no, I mean, it wasn't. And the thing is like doing that ride, I had my family's on the East Coast, and so I had been because it was in December and it was in LA, so it was still great. But I had been on the East Coast. I flew back. My flight was delayed. I got back at 1 in the morning, and we started the ride at 5 a.m. So I mean, I did those miles on 4 hours of sleep, and that was, I've trained my mind for so many years to just override some of those impulses of like I'm going to say no because I just like you said, you believe in miracles, and as do I, and I fully believe that our human potential is like we're just. I mean, at times I feel like we're at 1%. Hopefully it's five, but I feel like we have infinite potential. I think about like back in the days of Zep before Egypt was Egypt, and there were pharaohs, the gods, the living for 1,000 years, and like all these things. It's like so much is possible. I feel like we're in this very small, very reduced form where we're beginning to awaken. And so, I was like, I had done some hypnosis for myself. Hypnosis is part of my practice, and so I had been like training myself on mental toughness and just overriding. I definitely had been doing that leading up to it, and of course I'd been doing the miles and training. But it was what it was, and when I saw my flight was going to be delayed, I was like, as long as I don't get there the next day, I'm like, I don't care what, as long as I can get myself back in LA, I will. I don't care, And it's like, cool. I'm gonna get 4 hours of sleep. It's like it was slightly less, but it's all possible.
It is all possible. I'm enjoying hearing you talk about it. And even though I have questions about that, let's get into your work because I think what you're doing is amazing. I think people should learn about people that do what you do and what you're taking people through because not to work with you, of course, that'd be great, but that's not, it's that you're giving people this power back into their lives. And I'd love to hear, maybe you can share with what you do. And then, kind of a little bit about why you do it and how you do it.
So I really do help burned out, overworked, high performers really alchemize some of their limiting beliefs and help them be able to leverage where they are and expand it in a way where they're getting more of their time back, being able to be present. They're going through any lingering fears that they had around what else they can be, and releasing themselves from who they think they're supposed to be presenting as. And in doing this work, I I really boil it down to super basic things, and then create safe spaces, and I think, as I mentioned, I really feel like I'm able to bring this feminine lens to how to alchemize fear. We're not going to like sit there in the ice and just fight it. I'm like, well, I mean, how long will that last? It's like, how do we literally be so present with the fear that by being fully present, what I find is that the fear dissolves, and whatever may be the root of the fear, maybe presents itself and we work through that. So, it really is like, I look at people's values, I look at the goals that they want to achieve, and, I kind of look at the framework that they've been using to do those things, and like just little adjustments, like what's out of alignment, and again, if you are operating in this framework that has you, smashing through the fear or smashing or grinding or these things, it's like, how long can you truly do that? And if that is your identity, will that serve you well in 5 more years? Will it serve you well in 10 more years? How long do you want to do this? Do you want to just be in like, I'm a grind it out mode? Yeah, I'm just going to keep running 100 miles. Like, you're not, it's a season. And so being able to, again, create those safe spaces where it's not, no judgment, we can talk about whatever, we can say whatever. And that radical transparency is so key, in being able to go, aha, this is what we're looking at that you don't want to look at. It's been in your periphery, and I think this is the beauty of a coach, is the coach is able to see what you know for a fact is there, but because it's in your periphery, you're never going to be able to like completely put your eyes on it. And when you have someone who's connecting from that heart space, and as myself, as I say, it's like working almost as this like mental alchemist, and it's like being able to just be so open in a loving way, but also I'm like gentle mother, fierce warrior, bring them both together. And that's where I can bring that Aries energy of like the fire, but also like we're gonna bring our fire into the ice. And this is, it's a harmonizing, and it's a synergy of elements. It isn't like we're gonna burn it down, we're gonna melt through it. It's like, how are they in some ways able to create the steam, right? So when you put those elements together, you transform.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. How are we gonna that? I mean, and that kind of ties back to your foundational thinking of quantum. You know, the quantum you, right? Just the steam. I'm sorry, I went on like a little visual tangent there about things working together, and it was quite beautiful. Um, I th- it's interesting what you mentioned about a coach. I I felt like I've needed coaches in certain areas, sports or education. The concept of a life coach, and not even that we're talking about life coaching, but a coach to help with growth and life itself, almost felt phony to me a few years ago. And I've unpacked that a little bit, and I think that came from like my ego, like feeling like someone's going to tell me how to live life. What the what the fuck? Like, and it's not that at all. It's that I've finally come to grips with the fact that we look at ourselves biasedly. And you can know that you look at yourself biasedly, and you still look at yourself biasedly. It just is. Um, I'm just laughing because like I think a lot of times I give really good advice that I should listen to. I think my girlfriend's a mindset, nutrition, and fitness coach, and she gives a lot of advice, and then we start chatting about it. Or the best is we take a lot of hikes. That's how we hang out. We always joke about we hang out walking. Um, and yesterday we're talking about all these things that are like some of the most basic lessons that you would learn. Like, but it's still we don't practice them every minute, every day. And that's you kind of like you. It's great to, whether it's a coach or even a mentor or heck even social media accounts and email lists to follow, things that guide you in the right direction. I definitely was before on a journey about like this is like I'm gonna figure this out versus like that. It just, you can learn exponentially faster with others. And I do love the concept of coaching because the amount of like love and energy that someone's going to pour into you, um, I mean, that can't be reciprocated. Um, and yeah, a lot of people also, everyone could benefit from it in some format, right? Whether, like I said, it's something minimal like reading books and studying authors to having coaches, multiple, whatever.
Well, look, to your point, we start off in this so bounded in ego, and the ego is like, I am, I, me, one. And then there comes something that maybe starts to make you question your matrix of one, right? And it's like, wait, maybe there's other layers or levels or to this, and whatever it may be. Maybe you ran your 100 miles and you're like, oh, wait a minute, something just shattered in me. Or you take some psychedelics and it's like, oh my, I am not just me and the I and the one. Because we do need, if you look at esoteric thought and you think about like the monad, the dot, the I, the wu ji, it needed another form to understand itself. And we require the other to fully understand ourselves. And part of that is trusting the other to see us in a way that we can receive, and that's the growth, because we're bound up in this space where it's like, I know myself and this is who I am and I'm the expert. How could anybody else possibly see something that I can't? It's like, but you can't see yourself because you are you, right? So it's that hilarity and the irony of like, well, you can never fully see yourself, so you must have someone else to do so. And again, it's like when I talk about things in your periphery, it's like you will never be able to see your periphery. That's the definition. And so again, you know making that concession to release yourself from the constraint of like being the smartest person in the room, bound by ego, while yeah, there's pain and discomfort to it, but then it's like, then you're moving into the heart space, which is all about saying, yeah, I'd like help, and look at me, the vulnerability, the surrendering to the ice and what you're feeling as a result of it. And in those spaces, it's like, I actually, I have so much more, because again, when you are unable to fully see yourself, there's so much within you that someone else will see. And like you said, a coach just pouring themselves into you, where it's like able to nurture all this potential that, maybe you were, vaguely aware of or not aware of at all. And so I feel like those are just some of the benefits of, again, like really being vulnerable to the other and having that safe space in which to be fully seen.
Yeah. And it could even be friends, family, whatever, don't always have to be, coach, but I love how you're talking about the, I'm trying to say it as eloquently as you said when you're talking about that, kind of like, yeah, you're talking about having the other person, right, and then being able to like receive like what they think about you, and it started getting me think about. Do you follow Sam Harris at all and his
I'm familiar with
meditations?
Sam, but I wouldn't say I follow him, but I'm familiar.
Yeah. My best friend bought me his app and said, I want you to do the 30-day challenge. I was like, cool. You're going to go through the time and energy to do that. I'm in. Cool. 10 minutes of theory, 10 minutes of meditation every day for 30 days. Great challenge. Everyone should go through it or some sort. It's ironic to think about meditation with a challenge associated to it, but that's what we need as a stepping stone to get ourselves into mindfulness in some cases. I surely needed it. So yeah, give me a challenge, right? Um, and he talks about this very frequently in his content, the concept that you have no head. um and he was like, oh, you have a head? He's like, where is it? He's like, do you see it? And then he talks about it from a lot of different elements, but the main thing is that we kind of like feel our awareness is coming from this sense that's behind the eyes, but really, that's not where, it like that's not where it's coming from. That's not you, right? And he spirals it into a discussion about having awareness like of the self. And I think as important as it is, to ensure that you have, learnings from other people. And I don't want to sound contradictory because I just talked about the importance of coaching and learning from others. But I do think that's one of the beautiful things about awareness, increasing awareness, which to me is like the number one outcome from mindfulness practice, is that you start to be able to observe yourself in a little more neutral, aspect. I can tell you, it's one of those things that's like, cool, I understood. And then the first time that I realized it, I think realizations are really important. And the first time I realized it was, I laid down, I started doing, I call it endurance meditations. I'm trying to train for this 100 miles. So everything I need to do is endurance. So lay down and just follow the breath, right? Nothing to it. No mantra, no visualization. Just follow your breath in, out through your nose. Um, the one key was that's all you're doing. You're not wiggling. You're not thinking about something else. You're not moving if you're uncomfortable. You're not changing your breath. Nothing. And I put on a 45-minute timer. It dings at the end. And no matter what, No matter if I think about the most important thing that's going to make me $1 million, I have committed to sit here for 45 minutes. Um, and it's really interesting. I You naturally go like this and start scratching your face, and like the thought to action happened so fast that I couldn't even interrupt it in the beginning. And I was like, the thing that was beautiful about that was, okay, is scratching my face that horrible thing? No, but it actually was proved that I live completely in the subconscious automatically. I'm not in control. Someone's controlling me back here. And it did take away from the deepness of the experience, right? It was a distraction. And that was like I remember exactly where I was, and it was like a awakening. Again, that act of me scratching my head wasn't a big deal, but I'm like, what else am I doing, saying, that I have no control of. Like, I couldn't even, my only goal was to be aware of my thought. And I had this thought, I'm itchy, like, and scratch before I could even catch it. And it's like, you think about like emotional reactions, like verbal, like all that stuff was just, it gave me the willies.
But it's those, it's like, it can be the most simple scratch of the head that is literally the thing that the compound interest of all the learning literally breaks apart in that moment or expands in that moment, where it's like, wait a second, what else, right? It's like, what else? This one thing, but what are all the other things, And, that's a moment for myself where I could see myself like, my intention is to notice all the scratching, the head scratching that I'm doing in the other areas of my life. And I also relate that back to the ice, because in that moment where it's like, okay, I have to be here, I have to be still, I cannot, and it's like, when you tell a kid no, or you tell your thoughts no, I mean, it's just going to come back at you 20 times, more intense. So it's sort of like, all things, it's just like, again, it's the surrender of it, where it's like, hey, this is where I am. I'm fully committed. I'm committed to being here right now. I'm not resisting the ice, so to speak. I committed to my 200 miles, no matter what. 4 hours of sleep, okay. It's just it's going back. I feel like it's the experience of the oneness, right? Because on in a solo ego spot, it's like, damn it, I scratched my head. However, like, with the power of the one, when you're acknowledging the experience and the mind of the one, it's like, well, if I drop myself into this oneness, there's somebody who's so much better than this at me. I'm just going to channel their energy right now and have an experience with that, or learn through that, and that goes back to, I feel like, the power of a coach, where it's like, this person has, is channeling their energy towards you in order to share and to, like, as the waters rise, all the ships rise, so it's like, in those moments, and that's some of the alchemy that I bring to my clients. It's like, you're going through this thing and it feels impossible. Okay, well, let's just tap in and help you realize you are not alone. You're not in your oneness. You're not in your ego. Even though at times that's very helpful. In those moments where it's like, this might be really tough for me, it's like, ask for help within yourself. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
collective, I'm going to need some help with this. It's not simple. Just, I'm channeling that energy.
You're like a ball of wisdom. I just love it. um, I think the theme here is about miracles. Is really the theme that I'm catching from all this, and how we have the ability to do much more than we think. And we talked about in the beginning about how it's a little bit of a buildup, but absolutely. Um, Something to keep in mind and dream big and play with it and get support and support yourself. And just enjoy the ride. I think a lot of times we get caught up with what we can't do. Just enjoy the ride of what we can. Um, and I know we're coming up on your time stop here, and you have a lot going on. I really wanted to thank you so much for connecting, and I wanted to say that for anyone that wants to learn about what Aya does, I'll include some details of how to contact you in the footnotes. Um, and I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add there, but again, I just wanted to thank you, Aya.
Oh, thank you. I'm just love having conversations with you. So grateful to be adding value and connecting and just, just having a super enjoyable chat.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you could share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.